This is my preferred water bottle. It holds 40 ounces, so it's big, and I put on it a cap that has a straw, which I really like. But the problem with this water bottle is that it's so big that it doesn't fit in any of the pockets of any of my packs, and it's even kind of hard for me to get my hand around. So I'm gonna make a strap for it today. I'm using the Outdoor Ink Paisley 2 webbing from Ripstop by the Roll. I also have one of these clips that snaps together and a tri-glide. And I'm going to be using some small gauge shock cord and a tiny little cord lock. And I have some Gutermann sew-off thread in a purple color that'll match the Outdoor Ink. I want the strap to wrap around my bottle so that it's secure all the way up towards the top. I don't want it falling out. So I think 17.5 inches is going to work well for the length of the strap as it goes around the bottle. So I'm going to cut with an inch seam allowance on both sides so that I have room to fold over. I'm going to cut it 19.5 inches on the webbing. So this first piece is 19.5 inches. I'm just going to make a cut. I have a candle here, and I'm just going to use the flame to seal the raw edge. I'm going to use the grid here on my mat as a measuring tool, and I'm going to fold this back so that I have 1 inch folded over. I'm going to secure it with a pin. Really press that down. If I compare the two sides of the clip here, the webbing parts look different. The main body of the clip just has a one-piece bar that goes across for the webbing, and the other piece has the components of a tri-glide. So this is the side that I want to remain adjustable, and this is the side that I'm going to want to be fixed. So I'm going to feed the free end of my long piece of webbing through this, and this is going to bear the weight of the water bottle when it's full, so it'll ultimately be weighing a few pounds when there's plenty of water in there. And I have probably 2 inches that I'm going to allow for overlap here. That way I can do a box stitch and have room, because your foot won't allow you to get too close to this with the needle. So I'm going to pin that in place. I have purple thread in my needle and matching purple thread in my bobbin, and I'm going to take the 19.5 inch piece that we cut and folded over, and I'm just going to stitch it so that this end is sealed. I'm going to hold on to my threads here, and I'm pretty close to the edge of the webbing. This is the edge. I'm just going to go forward, and then I'm going to go back. Go forward. Just get it nice and secure. This isn't going to hold the weight of the bottle, so I'm not going to bother to do a box stitch, but I am going to go up a few stitches and then do a second row. So I have 2 rows of stitches here, and we'll do the same thing to the other side. Now I have my clip, and I'm going to sew that in place. I'm going to start out the same way here by just finishing off this edge. Line it up. Hold on to these threads. Lock my stitch. Now I'm going to just make sure everything's lined up, and I'm going to come down about 1 inch. across. The pattern that you use here in the stitches doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure that it's securely stitched. If you wanted to zigzag, you could zigzag. I'm trimming my threads here so that they don't get caught as I stitch down. Now I'm going to go on the diagonal and I'm going to connect the seam lines. Just try to make it neat. And I'll come across and diagonal the other side. And I'll lock my stitch. The short piece that I have, I'm going to fold in half so that it's exactly the same on both sides, lined up. And I'm going to crease with pressure here the center point. If that crease isn't obvious to you, you can mark it with a pin. Pop a pin right in there. That's the center mark of this piece. So now what I want to do is line this up so that my cross piece, which is not pinned to anything, is in the center of this. And I'm going to use my grid to help keep everything to the square. Set my bottle in the middle. When I fold this up, it should line up on both sides. So now I need to fold this up, and I'm just going to adjust it to where I want it. I don't want this plastic hitting this metal because that will make noise that will annoy me. So I'm going to just bring it up past that point. May still make noise there. Maybe I'll put it way up here. That way no matter what, there's no banging. Okay, so if that's the case and that is where I want the buckle, then this part here is the center of the bottle. So I'm just going to crease that and put a pin in it. Right there, that's the center mark. Now I have a vertical center and I have a perpendicular center here. So I'm just going to line up those two center points and transfer my pins so that they go through both layers. And I want to line them up using this grid so that they're exactly perpendicular and not cattywonk in any way. You don't want it torqued. So I'll put this on the machine and I'll do a box with an X right in the center here. Just verifying that nothing has twisted out of alignment. I'm first going to just lock my stitch. Then I'm going to sew all the way around the square here where these two pieces line up. And now that I've come back to my starting point, I'm going to do some diagonals. Lock my stitches off. I've made what is effectively a big plus sign now with the short pieces here. I've got the clip on this end, and then on this end is the whole length of the outdoor ink. So I'm just going to use a rubber band to hold this in place. while I work on the next step. I want to make a few cross pieces with the webbing. Maybe one down here and then one kind of close to the top so that this bottle isn't going to fall out. So I have the free end of the outdoor ink from the other side of the shank of it. And I'm going to wrap this around the bottle with about an inch overlap. I'm going to want 2 pieces. I'm going to put a pin in there. I'll cut 2 pieces to the same length so that they'll sort of fit like that. I don't think it needs to be super tight, but you also don't want it to be super loose. I'll just cut this here, and I'll make another piece the exact same length. I'm going to hit these with the candle again just to seal the ends. Now I'm just going to wrap these around the bottle to the size that I want. You can make this as tight or as loose as you want here. I think that'll be good. I'm going to put a pin in that. And now for the second one. Pin that one down. So it's starting to take shape here. I'll slide these off now and we'll sew them. So here's the little loop that we made. We have it pinned in place. And I'm going to line it up on the machine here. I can take the pin out. Hold everything so that it's square, and then I also have my loose threads in my hand, and I'm just gonna make a little box stitch, and then we'll sew down. And I'll do some diagonals just for fun here. This is what we have here, and we'll do the same thing to the other side. I've sewn both loops now with a box stitch, and they're the same size. And now we're going to measure and pin where we want them on the side straps. So I want to verify that my plus sign is in the middle. Just going to line that up really well. And I've got my rubber band holding everything in place. I want all my straps coming up straight so that they're not crooked. And then I can slide these on. And I want to slide them on so that we're not going to see the raw edge of this outdoor ink. I don't want that raw edge grabbing anything out in the world. I want to put that on the inside. I'm just going to place a few more rubber bands here just to extra securely hold that down. I suppose you could tape it, although the rubber bands seem to be working well. And I want to use my ruler to measure up from the bottom of the bottle and set my rubber band at the location that I want the bottom of that strap. So I'm going to put my rubber band so that it's 1.5 inches from the bottom of the bottle all the way around. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to slide this on, and I'm going to slide it on from the top. So I have to feed all this length of free webbing through the hole. Slide it down, and then I'm going to slide it all the way to the rubber band. And there's my raw edge. That's going to go here in my webbing. It's going to cover that. We're going to sew it in place just like that. So I'm going to pin it. And everywhere else around the bag gets a pin. So the first layer is pinned down, and now we'll put the second loop on. Here's my raw edge right there. You can even adjust it so that it'll cover the logo of the bottle. How's that? That looks pretty nice. Everything's strapped down, so I'll take my rubber bands off and we'll take the bottle off. Now I'll put this at the machine, and we're going to stitch each of these in place. So I'm sewing this cage together now. I just want to feed it through so that I can get it underneath the foot on each side, but I don't want to bust my needle on any pins or anything. I want to make sure that I'm not losing the square here. I want every piece to be perpendicular. So I'm just going to eyeball it, but I think that looks pretty good. So I'm locking my stitch. I'm taking care that I'm not stitching things I don't want to have sewn in here, like the other layers of this. And I just want to keep everything squared off. And just to keep everything nice and secure, I'm going to do the X in the center of each square. So the first one is done, and I have 7 left to go. So just keep going around the circle. So we have the cage now sewn in place, and we can slide our bottle in. It seems nice and secure. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the shock cord. The shock cord is really to keep the bottle from flinging out. I think that's probably going to be unlikely just because of the fit. It's a custom fit, but we'll do it anyway. Then I'll hit this with the candle just to seal the ends a little bit. Like that. They look pretty good. I have my bottle here made, and I need to attach the other end of the clip, but before I do that I just want to check and see how long I want this strap. So I'm gonna loop this around me here. I want to make it long enough that I can adjust it for different situations. So I'm going to use the other side of the clip, but also a tri-glide, which will keep neat some remaining webbing. But I think this is probably pretty good for me. So I'm gonna just mark this location with a pin. This is where I'm going to put the clip, and then I'm just going to give myself some slack and cut it off. I know, another 15 inches there. I don't think that matters. I'm going to seal this end with my candle. So I need to feed my tri-glide onto the webbing before I put the clip on. And I don't want anything to be on backwards. So I'm just taking note of the orientation. And I'm going to feed that through. I'm going to take my pin out, put my pin back in, and feed that on. Then my clip has to be in the same orientation so that I don't have anything reversed or twisted. And I'll just drag that up until I get to the pin. Okay, so this is what I think is my optimal position. And I have my tri-glide, which can take up the slack. I have to feed the end back through the tri-glide. Then I'm going to fold this over. At the end so that I've got probably about 2 inches of overlap, and I'm going to sew that in place. So I'll put a pin there. Okay. So now my tri-glide's on and my clip is on. Let's see if we lined it up properly. I think we did it. Nothing's now twisted. This seems like it'll be pretty good for me, and then if I want to, I can make it longer by another 15 inches, or I can make it much, much shorter, and that tri-glide will hold the slack. So all I need to do now is sew this portion here where I have the webbing onto the tri-glide. I'll do a little box stitch right there. So I just want to sew the part with the end of the webbing that's on the inside of the tri-glide. And I want to make sure it's lined up nice and square. So I'm going to do that. I'll just lock my stitch. And I'll just do a nice neat little box stitch at the end here. Here's my bottle carrier that I made. I think it'll serve me well in various configurations. I can do the crossbody, or I can easily adjust it down and make it longer if I need it longer, or I can really shorten it up if I want it high and tight. I have the clip, so I can put the clip around me, or I can take it off. For example, if the strap happens to be inside my backpack, I can take it off without having to take my whole backpack off, which is really nice. And then I have it secured here with this little bit of shock cord so that if it were to invert, it's going to be held in there. I like my little bottle carrier, and I think that this outdoor ink is really nice for this. So this is it, my outdoor ink bottle carrier. It's a fun, quick little project. I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. Thanks for watching. Happy sewing.